Hi Julie. So today I'm going to show you hopefully how to make some maps on QGIS, so a GIS software similar to ArcMap, um, but it's free. So if you download QGIS and open the program, I think Brenda said you were working with a Mac, so things might look a little bit different, but the core principles should be pretty much the same. So if you open the program, it might take a minute to open up here. The first thing in the program, you'll see this panel here. So the first thing we want to do is create a new project. So you'll hit this button up here. And basically you'll see several things in this window. So this is the empty map window. This is where the map is actually going to be, what you're going to be looking at when it comes to the mapping. This is where the geospatial layers are going to sit. So those are the data that you put in to make the map. Those generally consist of points, lines, or polygons. So those are pretty much the three different types of geospatial vector data that we're going to be dealing with. And so they sit here, and then you have a bunch of toolbars up here that allow you to manipulate the data. So this one, for example, allows you to add new data. And down here you have your coordinates, where your coordinates are in the map, the scale, magnification of the map, so how close the map looks. And finally, importantly, the first thing that we're going to do is look at the projection system. So basically they're different. So projections are just a way of assigning points in the real world with a map value to fit onto artificial representation of the globe. And because globes, you have to treat that data differently depending on how you want the data to fit on the map that you're looking at. So if it's a map of the whole world, basically you know that there's some skew in these maps, right? Because trying to put a three-dimensional object, a globe, in two dimensions creates some skew. So basically the data projection that we use is going to be dependent on where or what kind, spatially where we want to work. So we're going to want to try to find something. So this is a pretty wide representation of the data. It's not going to be the best. It's not going to be locally the best. So if this does a pretty good job for the whole world, but if we're working in a very specific part of the world, we're going to want to choose something that's more specific to that. So specifically, we work in UTM Zone 11 North. That's pretty much where everything is. And so we're going to use a projection system that's that. So if you go into the filter here, you can just go NAD 83, or see the ESPG here is actually 26911, 26911. If you type that in this middle box here, you'll find this. You'll see that that's specifically in this map for projecting data in this small sliver. So if you're projecting data outside of that sliver, this is actually not a good one to use, because it's going to, if you were mapping something over here, the points would be quite distorted. They wouldn't fit on the map properly. But since we're working in here, this is what we're going to hit. So if you double click that and hit OK, you'll notice that this changes down here, ESPG 26911. So that's the projection for our project here. So the next thing we're going to want to do is add some data. So like I said, this button here allows you to add data. So you can basically click that and then navigate to wherever your data is stored. So I have my stuff in a folder called To Julie here. You can see all kinds of, there's a shape file here. So these are the data files that I was talking about. So this is a shapefile. I can add that by double clicking on it here, and it will add it to the map. And you can see that this line file is right here, and projected on the map, it looks like this. So alternatively, you can just find your folder in your file explorer, and you can do it that way too. So if I go, all my stuff is here in QGIS, To Julie. So it's all in here. I've already added this one. You can basically just find each one of these files is saved with a bunch of different like accessory files. So find the shape file, the .shp, and you can just drag and drop that into the program here. So that's the alternative way you can get stuff into the program. Find some shape files. So I'll send you these shape files so you can use them. And then so I have some for RCFC and for LP. Okay, now we have a bunch of different types of data on the map. So you can see up here you have TFL 55, TFL 56 is here, forest license is here, Revelstoke is right in here. And you can see each one of these layers on our left here. So we can, generally you want to move the layers so that the point files are on top, the line files are underneath that, and finally the polygon files are on the bottom. So this is so that polygons and lines don't obscure point files. So if I drop this down here, you can see that they actually disappear behind this line now. Okay. So to make some maps, there's a bunch of stuff that you need to be aware of. So first of all, you can unclick these boxes to turn off the visualization of this in the map view. If there's tons of data loaded, it might take a little bit longer to move around, but if you turn this off, you won't be working with as much data in the computer memory. So let's just work on the RCFC stuff first. So I'm going to turn on the block boundaries here. Rivers, I'm not even going to put the SUs in, and then wildlife reserves, wildlife tree patches. Then I'm going to add streams and roads in this access file. Okay. So you can see basically you have the Downey Loop right here, and each one of these purple things is a creek. You have roads in here. So the first thing you might want to do is actually change the colors of stuff so they kind of make sense. So if you go into here and actually highlight that row for streams, for example, and then hit this button here, the layer styling panel, it'll open up a panel on the other side here. And with here you can choose some already made symbology. So if I click that, all that will turn blue. Or you can make your own. And if you can choose the line width and all that stuff. So if I'm going to just go like this, 0.2, and I like it blue like that, kind of reminds me that they're creeks. So that's fine. If I click on WTRs here, you're going to notice this is polygon. If you go here, you can manually change the colors of that. You can change the outline color, the outline width. I'm just going to go back and choose already made thing. So this is going to show up like this now. You can see the wildlife tree patches are all green here now. Rivers, again, should probably be like a blue. And the block boundaries, I'm going to make a just an outline black color. So I'm going to go down here and choose an outline black. Looks a little thick for me, so I'm going to drop it to something like that. Hit apply. If you're done with that, you can close that there. So what you can see now is, maybe I'll change my roads to red too. Something like that. So now you can see some roads. The highway comes up here. Downy loop, you got the downy that comes down through here, along here, so on. You go up further, Gold Stream, French Creek comes down here, so on. So each one of these data files is made up of a bunch of well, basically it has this projected information about the spatial coordinates, but it has more than that too. So if you right click on this and go down to open attribute table, it'll open up a table like this. Actually, this is in the wrong viewer. How does this work? Okay, so if you come down here, you can toggle the view, what you're seeing in the attribute table. I prefer to look at it like this. So you can see that actually for every one of these shapes, I'm just going to pick a shape at random here. So I select the shape by here. You can choose to zoom to that shape. So you can see in the map here, I'll just move this out of the way, that this shape that's highlighted now, so this is this allows you to highlight stuff. This is going to deselect it. So this shape here is the one I highlighted here. So that corresponds to this row. This row you can see has a bunch of information in it too. So it belongs in TFL 56. You can see that it's block 234 or cutting permit 234 block 1. And then it has some information about the shape, length, and area, and GIS link and stuff too. So basically you can find blocks this way. So if you're looking for block 1061, you can just click this row that corresponds to 1061 and go to it. Select it. So here's 1061, and that's fine there. So if you're creating planting maps, first thing you might want to do is create a separate shapefile that has just the planting blocks in it. So to create another shapefile from an already existing shapefile, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can start by creating a shapefile totally from scratch, but if you do that, it will have, actually I'll just show you how to do that. So I'll click right here, new temporary scratch layer, or actually that's just a temporary one. I'll make a permanent one here for you. New shapefile. I'll save it in here, sample one, call it that. And then you can choose whether it's a point, line, or a polygon. I'm going to call it a polygon. Okay. And it's going to ask me to choose its projection too, so I can choose that one. So here's sample one. This is my new shapefile. So if I go in there and open up that attribute table, what you're going to see is there's only one column in it, ID. So I would have to manually add all these columns back. So I actually can add this shape to that shapefile though. So to edit a shape, you click on the shapefile that you want to edit, and you turn on the toggle editing tool. When you do that, a bunch of stuff is going to light up because you can actually create stuff here. If you want to copy and paste something from a different shapefile, what you're going to have to do is hit the select features button, and then you're going to actually have to go to the layer that you want to select it from, which in this case is the RCFC boundary. I'm going to click that, and then you can copy it. I guess on a Mac it would be Command C, or it's a Control C, and then I go click on sample one, and I can go Control V, and it's going to paste it into that table. So now if I open this, we have an entry in that table. If we zoom to it, here it is. And if I edit the symbology of that, so if I save it, so this is the save at this button and stop editing. And now I change the symbology here. Okay, it should be red. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. It might be projected wrong. Anyway, I don't like that way of doing it because you have to worry about the projection, you have to worry about starting everything from scratch, you have to worry about adding these new columns and all that. So the other way of doing that, so I can remove that, I'm going to delete that after, is find the block that you want. So it was 106.1 that I was talking about, for example, and go to it. What you can also do is once that's selected, you can right click on boundary or body, because that's basically this shape is in the body shape, and then you can export that shape and save selected features as. If you do that, invalid projection, you can call it, I'll call that one sample one now, save it, or overwrite the file. Okay, now you can see that in sample one, I can turn that on and off. There is now a shape in sample one, and it corresponds to the shape in 106.1 in the RFCFC boundary or body or whatever it is, boundary. And if I open up the attribute table here, you can actually see it actually, because I exported it from that, it kept the same fields in the attribute table too. So you can still tell that that's block 106.1. So now that I've done that, I could find other blocks that are planting blocks. Let's say that this is a planting block over here, so I have to click this and select it. I can Command C, click on sample one, Command V. I should have copied that over, but it does not look like it did. Oh, it's because it's not editable. So I turn on editing. So copy that, paste it in there. You'll see that the feature is pasted. Now, if I open this attribute table again, find out things, so that's 210 block 3. If I select it here, and if I open the attribute table, you'll be able to see that in the attribute table too. So you can see it selected there. So if I select this one in the attribute table, it'll select it in the map. If I select this one up here. So basically what you can do is make look at the planting blocks and compile a list searching in the GIS link or the CPID block for the ones that you want. And then so say I know that block 318.2 is one that is a planting block. So I'm going to select that, go to it, see it's selected now. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it into the second thing. So basically, also now that you can see the symbology is different, you can look on a larger scale, and we can have all these outlines of other cut blocks. We can even make them less obvious, so that they don't dominate the screen so much. And you can see on the map, you can immediately see that that's a planting block. Or if we wanted to, so I can save edits there, turn editing off, and make that a different color. I could make it gradient pink or whatever, you know. Doesn't really matter. So I'm going to choose to make it yellow or something. So they're super easy to find. And basically when you make the map layer, you can find it there. So I've actually already made a shapefile that has some of the planting shapes. So I'm going to just open that. Attribute table. I'd recommend double checking my work and also trying it yourself to kind of get the hang of it. But so if I add this shapefile here, see these brown blocks here. I don't want them to be brown. I'll make them something else. Bright pink. So now you can scroll around through so you can see along the gold stream. There's this block in here that's being planted. Not really much else along the gold stream. If you go down to the Downey Key Road, you see this block's being planted again. This block, whatever. So what Brenda will probably want is a overview map of each area. So another thing that you can do in this layer styling is, for example, you can put labels on blocks, for example, something like that. So if you open the layer styling panel and go to RCFC boundary, and you go down to the second thing here. So this is the symbology tab. So if you go into labels, you can make labels. So if I go to single labels, it'll label each of the blocks. So I can label a block by the GIS link, and you can change the label size and whatever. You can also choose to just label the planting blocks, for example. So I'm going to get rid of no labels in that one. I'm going to go to planting blocks, make some single labels, label them based on the attributes. So you can see that in the attribute table, SUGIS link has good information for labeling. You can also make a new column. You make a new column by going into the edit, and you can create a new column right here, or you can calculate a new column's attributes with this field calculator here. But let's keep it simple for now. Let's just label it with the GIS link here. So you can see there's a column GIS link. So we know that has the information we want. So we go down, find GIS link, and you can see it labeling those. You can change the size of the labels. You can change the font of the labels, the color of the labels. Make the labels bright blue if I wanted to, but that's probably not going to stand out all that well. So I'll just make them black. And yeah, so now you can see that the planting blocks that are there are labeled. What else do we need in this? Probably not all that much more than that. So you have the blocks now, where they are, you have them labeled. Oh, we could label the roads too. So I have this named access thing. So if I go to labels here, actually we don't actually need the symbology for this at all. We don't actually need it to show up. So what we're going to do is make it completely transparent. I don't know if I can just make it the width there is 0. No, that does not look like it works. But what I can do is change the opacity to 0. So now you can't see those lines at all, the green lines that used to be there. But what you can still do is go and add labels, single labels, and label them based on map label or road name full. So you can see this is labeled now with Key Road, Highway 23 North, Downey, Sorcerer, North Downey. So these maps are all in there. So now those are labeled, the road names are labeled, the cut blocks are labeled. You have the RCFC roads in there. You can change the colors of those or whatever. I mean, you can make whatever colors you want. But basically, we have probably enough information to make a map now. It's not going to be the prettiest map ever, but what I'm going to do is find the, go to Project, and then go to New Print Layout. You can add a title to it or whatever, it doesn't really matter. So now, go down to the side and go add new map to layout. And then it'll ask you to draw out the size of the map you want to make. Render the map here. And you can move around in there. So this allows you to pan actually in the layout, like move the layout around. That actually doesn't change anything in the map, but if you click this, move item content, you can move the layout around. You can zoom in and out with your mouse cursor, or you can set the scale using this here, main properties, item properties here. The other thing that you can change is the map size. So if I go to item properties, I think, no. Oh, if I click on the map and hit page properties, you can choose the size of your page. You can even make it a custom size. And I can make it, it's in millimeters, I can make it, put it in centimeters, and I can make it 100 by 100. So it's a square meter. We're not printing this out, but just the bigger that you make it, the more space it'll take up, the larger the file will be. So just keep that in mind. Here, you can redraw this tool, the select move item tool. Pull this to the size of here. And I go move around in the map and sort of rebalance this. And we have somewhat of a map. So you can add different features to the map. You can add a north arrow if you want. You can add all sorts of stuff. You can add images, scale bars, all that kind of stuff. But the guts of the map are there. The last thing that I want to do now, so you can see, you can move around in the map here. You can see this is what it's going to look like when you zoom in. And yeah. So finally, what you're going to do is go layout, export to as PDF. Actually, I'm not sure if this actually saves it properly. Oh, yeah, there you go. And after you save it as a PDF, it's going to give you an option to create a geospatial PDF. So you click yes on that. I'm not sure exactly what this will do as far as map themes. And it's going to ask you which vector information to include. So it'll by default just include the stuff that's already checked on. So we're just making an RCFC map right now. Yeah, you can basically just click save, and it will create a georeferenced map, which you can send to Avenza or whatever to open up in the field, and you should be able to tell where you are on the map. It's a pretty big map, so it might take a bit to save. Also, some of the data might be pretty large, so I'm not sure how well your computer will render it. Again, I'm not sure exactly how stuff works with the Mac too. But yeah, why don't you give that a try and let me know how it works. Looks like this is still exporting here though. Okay, so it's successfully exported. So you can see, I can find that layout here. It's pretty big, it's 32 megabytes. It's probably not, it wouldn't even fit in the size of an email. But what you can see is if I open up the PDF, there's all this information in there about what we want. So here's the block, here's 241.1, Downey's labeled, all that. So yeah, let me know how that works for you. Let me know if you can create one of these maps. I mean, it's going to take time to get used to these programs, especially if you haven't used them before. Please ask me as many questions as you need to. I've barely scratched the surface here. I skipped over a lot of stuff probably. So yeah, ask away. There's some great tutorials about editing data and all that kind of stuff. You can create new data, all that kind of stuff. But there's lots of good tutorials on YouTube. The web is a treasure trove of, you can just use Google to find out how to do pretty much anything on here. But I'm more than happy to help with whatever questions you have. I don't know how to do everything myself, but managed to figure out this much. So hopefully that works. And good luck.